This is Seeing Red, now in our 15th season of bringing you the best in independent Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Fishkin and Joe Goldstein.
Sunday night was absolutely one of this franchise's finest hours. It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Mark Fishkin here with Mike Battista. Mike, we've got so much to talk about tonight. What was your overall thought as Danny Edelman's penalty nestled in the net?
My overall thought was, he's gonna get saved. We're just gonna keep going for like 20 rounds. No, it was unbelievable. I could not. I really couldn't fathom what I was seeing just because of everything this team has done, especially in PKs for the last 5 years. I can't tell you the last time they won a PK shootout. It's just so to actually see them pull through, and to have that kind of performance from multiple players. I couldn't. I think the video I posted on Twitter, you just hear me laughing in the background because I can't stop laughing.
Because it was just so unbelievable.
Yeah.
Tonight on Seeing Red, we're going to go into the Red Bulls eliminating the MLS Cup and Leagues Cup holder Columbus Crew in what some are calling the biggest upset in MLS history. We're going to give our Bull of the match. We're going to talk about who the Red Bulls might match up with best after this upcoming weekend's Game 3 in the conference semis. We're speaking with Andrew Wiebe of MLS Media. Very exciting. And then some fantastic emails on a night where fantastic emails are where it's at. But before that, please, the liking, the subscribing on the YouTube, really appreciate it. We just hit a milestone, 3,000 hours of Seeing Red watched on YouTube this year, which is terrific. Very, very exciting. So thank you so much. All right. Sunday night, the Red Bulls went into their match 2 of their 3-game series with the Columbus Crew, up a game, brimming with confidence, with nothing to lose, and Sandro Schwartz's unique tactics didn't change much over Game 1. They seem to be just as effective, though. The teams go into halftime, go into the locker room scoreless, with Columbus hitting the post on 2 opportunities, getting good looks, surely more positive looks than New York. They went down a goal early in the second half, and I think at that point, Mike, people were saying, okay, well, all right, we got a game. We've gone down. It's going to be okay. Red Bull fans perhaps maybe a little resigned to a match 3 a couple of times in this match. And then New York just kept fighting.
Yeah, no, it was the quintessential Red Bulls playbook from this year, where you have a team that's conceding possession, not getting a ton of offense, but they're pretty much pulling the Rocky of just let them wear themselves out and then get them on a counterattack or something like that, or on a set piece. But you see Columbus go ahead. It's like, okay, this is the game we're playing. So either one or two things is happening. Either Columbus is going to just get a second one, or the team that got 14 draws this year is going to come out. And that's kind of what happened. Even when we're going to get more into it, but they even did the thing where the draw happened, whether you wanted it to or not.
Right.
But no, that's the defensive work, especially in the first half. I got to shout out Sean Nealis. I got to shout out Dylan Nealis. I was going to shout out Andres Reyes a couple times, but then he did some really stupid fouls in that game. But overall, the defensive work was just the 5-man, the 3 to 5 man back line that adjusted setup that Sandro Schwartz had. It worked so well in just annoying Columbus and just gnawing them out. And is that a good sustainable strategy? Probably not, but it worked.
It worked over 120 minutes, or 130 minutes, excuse me, with the 12 minutes of extra time. New York breaks out 9 minutes after Columbus takes the lead, where in a play where Lewis Morgan is dancing with the ball on the left sideline, where I was sitting, which was some feet away. The ball clearly looked out. Now, it may have been that a player was in the way. It may have been that both players touching the ball as it was dancing on the line. Moreira for Columbus seemed to stop, anticipating a whistle. And Lewis Morgan did what you are always told from the time you're real young in this game, which is you keep playing until the whistle. drove down the left side, made a phenomenally sweet pass to Forsberg, who put it on a dime to Dante Van Zier. And Mike, for me, this goal was the accumulation of everything that we had been promised about what Dante Van Zier might have been for this team. 5-holing Patrick Schulte and knotting the match at 1.
If there's any player who is playing for their job right now, it is Dante Van Zier.
Yeah.
I hate talking like that, but to see exactly that, the way he just was able to put the ball exactly where it needed to be, not shoot it wide, not shoot it high, just exactly where it needed to be from point blank, and also under pressure to get that pass from Emil. It's exactly the type of player that is worthy of being a designated player for this team. And
Yes.
I don't think I can. Was that his only shot on target that game? Because I feel like
I'll look it up while you talk.
Yeah, because to be perfectly honest, that was probably his standout moment from the game. And of course, he scored. Of course, it's a standout moment. But it's
that
funny
was his only shot of the game.
Which, glass half full. It's a shame that's his only shot on target. But you're playing against Columbus Crew,
You're right.
So I can't really take too much away from it. But if that's going to be your one shot, that's the perfect shot to take, especially leveling the game in the 65th minute.
New York goes up 15 minutes later, where that man, Emil Forsberg, who, I mean, as much as we talked about Van Zier being the embodiment of a DP forward in that moment, this is Forsberg's team, and he's come back healthy, ready to go. He's putting the belief in this team every single minute he's on this field. He was giving Columbus fits all night long with his ability to hold on to the ball. He didn't complete every pass he attempted, but once the ball got to him in the attacking half, it was very challenging for Columbus to either move him off the ball or get the ball off his feet. He saw the right moment, drove into the box, got taken down, completed the penalty after, for my money, an outrageous amount of time and gamesmanship from Columbus to try and disrupt New York's rhythm. I mean, it must have been 7 or 8 minutes, Mike, of the 13 minutes award, 12 minutes awarded in stoppage, just on trying to get set up for that penalty kick.
I mean, yeah, we saw Emil Forsberg doing the seal thing with the ball on his head.
Magic moment.
Yeah, and I want to make fun of that more, but just what happened to the fact that FIFA was trying to cut down on players yelling at referees?
Oh my Lord.
I'm sorry, guys. The more you complain, it's not going to reverse the call. And I got into an argument with another Red Bulls journalist who I won't name.
Super fun.
But it's just, we were arguing about it in person, and he goes, well, of course, they're just going to sit there and take it. I go, that's not the point. If they're not
giving the cards out.
Give cards.
I
don't care if it's Lionel Messi, fine. You want to get that excuse, that exception, fine. But just it was ridiculous because they were crowding around the guy. And there was one point where, if I remember correctly, Dante was behind one of the guys.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden they started scuffling. And I'm just like, what are we doing here?
What are we doing? And Cheberko was the chief instigator for Columbus, wouldn't move off the spot. Right. Morgan is standing on the spot, or wouldn't actually put the ball down, but standing there, perhaps giving Schulte the impression that he was going to be taking it. Finally, after far too long, the ball gets placed down and Forsberg scores. And then you're thinking,
and real quick.
Yeah.
I would also say, Cheberko, some of that's just getting in the guy's head, and we've seen that, standing on the spot, just trying to.
So annoying.
I understand that. Look, FIFA's gone after goalkeepers. You can't jump around the line anymore. You can't you're making this pretty much almost a near certain goal. So I understand you got to do something to get in the guy's head, but that doesn't mean that everyone else on the team gets away with it. That's my stance.
That's right. And again, 10 minutes to play, you thinking we're golden, right? Here we go. We have Elias Manuel come on, and we have Lewis Morgan come off, which is a challenge because now if the game goes to penalties, he's not taking one. And we know about Manuel's challenges with penalty kicks of late. the outrageous 12 minutes go up on the scoreboard. And again, credit to the defending champs. They're not going to go down easy. A terrific Christian Ramirez header nodding it over the top of his head into the net. Fair play. I mean, New York was getting shelled. And for me, at that moment in the match, it's like, just have the ball, because Columbus was pushed up so hard. And at that moment in the game, when New York would get possession, which wasn't a ton during the stoppage period, they were just away, when players had acres of space ahead of them. Just have the ball. Make one or two square passes. Move the ball away from the net. With possession, go to the corner. Just take this time away. So now it's penalties. And New York has gone out of their last 4 competitions via the penalty kick, going back to last year or the year before. Right. It was the Leagues Cup of 23, MLS Cup 23, Leagues Cup 24, Open Cup 23 as well. And so it's been an age since New York has advanced past penalty kicks. And
I think the last one they won was 2022 Open Cup. DC United, was it? The road
game? In Montclair? Where was
that? No. Wasn't there a game against No, who might? No, it wasn't. No,
it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
It's a long time ago. So Diego Rossi steps up and finishes. John Tolkien, I think, had the right idea. I think Patrick Schulte is a very tall person and dragged his feet and stopped. And we finally got to the last pairing, where, to his credit, Elias Manuel had to convert his penalty to continue, and he did. Chaburko shoots, and Carlos makes the save. Forsberg, and I think we don't put enough credit. I mean, Forsberg, obviously consummate pro, 10 years in Champions League. Still, converting 2 penalty kicks in one game is tough to do against the same goalkeeper. Made it look easy once again. And then Carlos stands on his head against Max Arsene. And then Sean Nealis comes up. And Sean Nealis, who has converted penalty kicks for this team in very challenging situations in penalty kicks over this run where New York is failing, not his best. Once again, Carlos is called on to make the save, and it sets the scene for Danny Edelman, and sends the 20,000 announced.
It was close to 21.
Announced
was I'm looking at now.
That's what it was announced. I don't think there were 21,000 people at Red Bull Arena on Sunday night. But regardless, the second half of that match was absolutely one of the more upbeat, intense, focused crowds that we've had at Red Bull Arena in some time. And New York is able to knock off the defending champs. I do want to show very quickly kind of a graphic representation of just how rare, just what the playoff record at home has been over the years, and how rare to knock off a playoff series at Red Bull Arena. It took the Red Bulls their 5th year at the arena to actually win a playoff game. In the Shield era, New York went out twice after winning games at home. These were second legs in 2015 and 2018 after the Red Bulls had fallen behind in the first leg. Both of those teams, Columbus and Atlanta, went on to win MLS Cup that year. And the Charlotte game was last year was absolutely wild. But playing at home has been a house of horrors for the Red Bulls in the playoffs, and New York was able to get it done. And so I guess among the questions I have for you, Mike, is what where is this ranked for you? Like, there have been a few special nights at Red Bull Arena, like over the top wonderful experiences where New York comes out on top. Where does this fit for you?
It's up there. It's not top right now.
Is top the 13 Shield game for you?
Top, I wasn't there for that game, but I was watching.
Okay.
But like that top is probably 2013. There's other like other things on my personal list, but I would say right now this is like top 3 or 5.
Yeah.
Just because I don't. There's a saying that I will steal from another journalist that covers the Red Bulls, that if this team's ever going to win the MLS Cup,
Yeah.
it's not going to be as a Shield winner. It's going to be as a team that barely gets in the playoffs.
Okay.
And when you see this kind of result, I was going in going, well, we have a 1-game lead. We're probably going to lose this one. And my prediction was a 2-1 loss.
Yeah.
So to see that happen in person, to see them go, oh, we're going to Metro this, to we didn't just Metro it. I literally had a Cosmos fan who was in the top corner of the field. Do you remember MG Hines in the old days?
Yes, I do.
Yes, he was there, and he's texting me going, "How do you? This is the best game I've ever seen in person.
Yeah.
How do you come here every week and deal with this team?" But I'm gonna be honest with you. Like when you see this team making multiple subs before a possible PK shootout,
Yeah.
and you see who's first man up. Oh God, it's John Tolkien. Nothing
Right.
against John Tolkien. Why is he the first man up? Who's next? Oh, it's Noah Ellie. Okay, what's going?
Who delivered a phenomenal penalty?
Who
kick.
delivered a phenomenal one? But just like, this is
Right.
what is this starting list? And then 4th and 5th is Manuel and Forsberg.
Yeah.
So it's just unfathomable to just like all the emotions in my head. It's got to be up there, but I would really have to make a tier list to figure out where exactly it goes.
Well, we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
New York knocks off the number 2 team in the East, and now they wait, and they will wait for 3 weeks to play again in a 1-game conference semifinal, either at TQL Stadium in Cincinnati, if those teams, if Cincinnati wins game 3, or a question mark hanging over, because if New York City FC wins game 3 in Cincinnati, there are events at Yankee Stadium and Citi Field on the given weekend. And so we could have a bonkers situation where New York City hosts the Red Bulls at Red Bull Arena. And yeah, we're not there yet, and we have plenty of time to talk about that. That would be incredibly strange for Red Bull fans. Red Bull fans have been the opposing team at Red Bull Arena in Leagues Cup before, in CONCACAF Champions League, maybe not. Maybe it's just how it felt in the arena in February, where some Mexican side brought a lot of fans. But to actually be the visiting team at Red Bull Arena during a meaningful playoff game would just be so effing MLS. I don't know what to tell you.
I think wasn't the Barclays Challenge thing in 2011. They were one of the away teams, I think.
Sure,
something like that.
Sure.
But I was gonna say real quick, the Citi Field thing. I thought the circus was happening in the parking lot.
I don't know. I'm repeating what I was told.
Okay,
but
I'm not sure.
if that's where it is, then fine. Nevertheless, and we have plenty of time to get into that. I do want to talk about bull of the match. For me, when you stop 3 successive penalty kicks in a do or die situation, Carlos Coronel, who has raised his game into this playoff series to a level that he is operating at the highest level, on the limit, as former Red Bull coach Gerhard Struber would say. He is on his limit. Do you have one, sir?
I do. And it's really a shame that he's going to be slightly footnoted for missing his potential game, or not missing, having his potential game-winning PK saved. Sean Nealis had a insane game on the back line. Standing the game, if you remember, had two Columbus corner kicks and 2 Columbus dangerous free kicks, all within the first 20 minutes.
Yes.
And he was a big part of why those did not lead to goals. The 2 free kicks shot really high. Why were they shot really high? Because a big man from Long Island is on the wall.
Standing there. Yeah.
Why are the corner kicks not making contact on target? Because he's jumping up and handing them away. The only reason they got the tying goal later on, because he couldn't do it for 8 extra minutes in stoppage time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give Sean Nealis my bull of the match, just because I'll be a little look. Carlos Coronel, take your roses. But I just need to shout that man out. I just need to give it to Sean.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think Dylan Nealis as well played an extraordinary series. I mean, listen, you don't eliminate the defending champs, the number 2 team in the East, only coming behind Miami, by having not everyone actually step up and make a difference. Danny Edelman, again, ran over 8 miles in each of the games. Cam Harper, fantastic performances. Carballo had the goal in the first match. Terrific. Tolkien played well. I mean, there's no one here that you can look at and say that they really just didn't do it here. But I fully support.
And you could, and honestly, you can make some adjustments. Like, Carballo, you could argue that the go-ahead goal for Columbus early in the second half, it was his defending. But even then, like, what did he do? He was one of the first guys subbed off. I'm still not going to take away the fact that he won the first game and had his whole moment, and he had his best game as Red Bull in the first game. You can't be perfect 2 games in a row.
Nope.
And other players stood up for him.
Quickly, before we go to break and talk to Andrew Wiebe, is there a team, Cincinnati or NYC, that you feel that New York matches up against better in a conference semi? Of course, New York swept Cincinnati this year. And New York was swept by NYCFC, including what you and I talked about as the worst loss in RBA history, the 5-1 Jersey side derby where New York was not up for it. I'm curious if those results illustrate to you exactly who New York should be hoping to play in the next round.
They should be hoping to play New York City FC.
Because
Columbus beat them 2 times in the regular season, and they could not beat them in the playoffs. I don't think that a team's going to get 3 in a row against the New York Red Bulls. I do think that FC Cincinnati is a team that is going to figure out how to beat the Red Bulls. And in a 1-game playoff, I think it happen. In a 1-game playoff against a team that's already shown the Red Bulls what kind of team they are, I feel like the Red Bulls have a better chance of countering that and getting past them. Also, I'm just going to be honest with you. It's just easier travel. It's just easier on that. The little minor things. So
it'll be easier for everyone. Yes,
easier for everyone. But honestly, I am the superstitious type of you're not going to get 3 wins. It's very tough to beat a team 3 times in a single season.
All right. I will say that the Red Bulls will be playing with house money. They will be confident. They will be the underdog. That will be acceptable. Something really quick that we're going to talk about with Andrew Wiebe before we go to break is, do you think that Schwartz in the decision day game purposefully played a more traditional lineup against Columbus as to hide his wrinkle that they played in game 1?
No, because we saw in that decision day game, he tried that diamond and then it stunk, and then he had Carlos fake an injury, and then they changed it. So if that was his master plan, it was, he immediately abandoned the master plan. Like we saw him immediately do a pivot. So I don't really think he was trying to be cute with anything.
All right. I got it. When we're back on Seeing Red, we're talking to one of the analysts of MLS Countdown and Wrap Up and Extra Time and Instant Replay, and that's Andrew Wiebe. Keep it here. Here comes the music. The New York Soccer Roundup. Very, very exciting time for the New York Red Bulls, and very, very exciting for Seeing Red, frankly, to have this face and this voice. He's the analyst on MLS Countdown, MLS Wrap, and the host of Extra Time and Instant Replay, and he's rocking the kit of the Comeback Player of the Year, Lewis Morgan. That's Andrew Wiebe. Andrew, how are you? Thanks so much for coming by and Seeing Red. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I am so happy to be here. I've asked so many favors of you over the years, Mark, to help us better understand this club, these players, these coaches, and you've never said no. So I am extremely happy to be on Seeing Red, and happy for Lewis Morgan as well. I'm wearing the jersey backwards, Morgan in front. I just felt in a award that everybody is ultimately deserving. Like all the nominees are deserving.
Yes.
I just felt Lewis Morgan's his contributions and sort of the limbo of his career that he experienced deserved Comeback Player of the Year, and I'm super happy for him to have gotten that. And I was getting some chills when I heard Red Bulls, when I heard the Rage Against the Machine, because Boy, I'm sure a lot of folks enjoyed hearing that repeatedly the other night at Red Bull Arena.
I mean, it was, as I certainly don't have to tell you, sir, Red Bull Arena come playoff time, not exactly a lockdown event for the home team. And we have seen we've seen for almost 3 decades, but we've seen this team fold in this situation in penalty kicks multiple times over the last 2 seasons.
I was there last year, Mark, against Cincinnati. I was in the building for that one as well. And I just remember the look on my kids' faces who had adopted the Red Bulls over the course of that game, because how could you not, when you're in the stadium and everybody around you is going crazy and swinging their towels, etc.
Yeah.
The looks on their faces, I was like, oh, this is but a taste.
This is what it is. Well, I mean, let's pull back 1,000 feet. I mean, this has been spoken about as one of the all-time greatest upsets in playoff history. I've been saying many times over the last couple of weeks, I was unable to find a single pundit that was willing to stand up and say, yeah, New York's got a chance here. And this is before match 1, but willing to say, yeah, the Red Bulls, if they play their game, if they do well, I mean, listen, after tanking most of the second half of the season, the idea that they were going to be able to take down one of the best teams in MLS history, I think just was beyond everyone. And here we are.
It seemed preposterous. And to your point about tanking it wasn't because, it was because everybody respects the crew and thinks they're a wonderful team, but it was also because this New York Red Bulls team had not approached that level, had not approached this is our best selves level. And I'm not actually even sure that we saw that completely in this series.
Yeah.
But we haven't even, we didn't see a shred of that for a long period of time. And then there was this big question mark about Emil Forsberg and his form and his fitness and what he could give to a series like this that was going to require his absolute best. And then the dominoes just start falling. Like, is Carlos Coronel screwing up? Is he past it? It's like, oh, well, he was in that game, but he's not in this game and not in the game after that. And it turns out the 2 games he wasn't, when he was otherworldly, are the most important games to be that way. There were just all these factors that sort of built. And I give a ton of credit to, Sandro, for one, who I think is a really underrated coach in this league after one season, for understanding what we have done, what we have tried, including on decision day, is not the path forward. We've got to come with a new wrinkle. And I will tell you right now, my belief is that, and I don't know this personally, I haven't talked to Sandro recently or certainly around this game, but my belief would be that he probably had in his mind that this was the right way to do it, or a preferred way to go about it, and was like, oh, I'm not going to show that on decision day. Just like Wilfred wasn't going to show everything on decision day either.
Right.
And so the game plan was really good. But everybody has a game plan against the crew, Mark.
Yes.
Everybody knows what they want to do. They don't change who they are. So you walk into it with a plan 34 out of 34 times every single season against that crew team and any great team. And usually the great teams tear up your plan and say, go back to the drawing board and try to do it again.
Right.
And the crew just were never able to do that. And I give a ton of credit to Sandro, but I give most of the credit to the group of players that went out and did something that I frankly have not seen from this crew team since probably post Orlando last year, right before the international break, just to be really uncomfortable at times with the ball at their feet, to be pushed backwards instead of breaking you and getting in positions to always flow downhill. It just felt like the Red Bulls pushed them, sometimes all the way back to that end line. And then once there said, you're trapped. Like, we got you in the corner and you are not getting out.
Right. And you say to the end line, and I think to the sideline as well, because
Yes.
I think the defining moment, yes, we'll all remember the Forsberg getting taken down in the box. We'll remember Carlos Coronel with 3 straight penalty kick saves. We'll remember Danny Edelman, young homegrown, delivering the final dagger. But Lewis Morgan on the sideline, not giving up on that ball, and the 2-pass sequence, him to Forsberg to Van Zer, and this goal, which knotted the game at 1, was the release of Red Bull fandom understanding that, yes, finally, this is what Dante Van Zer came to this club to do, to score a goal like that and to absolutely lift everyone in the arena. Because at 1-0, Red Bulls go down 50-something minute, and everyone's thinking, well, okay, all right, well, I guess we'll go back. This is it. Columbus doesn't blow a lead. That's not how they do.
A lot of scar tissue being re-examined in that moment.
Lot of scar tissue. But here was a moment so uncharacteristic where I think it was Moreira, the crew player, they stopped. They stopped playing.
They did.
And as we all know, you play to the whistle. And that is not what happened in that moment.
Yeah, the crew have experience with that too. I mean, you think back to an MLS Cup in 2015, that was eerily reminiscent of that moment for me. Different people, different place, different circumstances, of course, but same lesson overall. And I think that, those are the moments within this club and with this style of play that you always have to win. Like if you're going to be New York Red Bulls and this is the way you're going to play, you can't afford to lose that moment where it's like, are you going to take advantage of this mental error?
Yes.
In a dangerous part of the field, or are you going to back off that pressure even 5% and have the ball roll 3 more inches and be out of bounds, or have Moreira have time to turn and pass it around, and now you're back to having to defend against this team that can just move you and tear you apart. It's that's like the soul of the club and the soul of what this has to be about. And if you don't have it in that moment, you don't have that goal. And you can't just have it in that moment, Mark. And you know this. Everybody in that stadium knows this. You have to have it in the 25, then it doesn't happen for you. It has to be universal. And so for the Red Bulls to find that at the right time of the season, to have Emil Forsberg find his fitness and his form and his place as a figurehead within the club, because you can really feel and see that happening, the way that his sort of belief and confidence emanates to the other guys. Timing is good. Timing is great. Timing is something the Red Bulls have never, ever had, and we'll see if it holds up now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll see if it holds up. And obviously, we all are now dealing with, although there are a number of Game 3s left to be played this upcoming weekend, New York and a whole bunch of teams in the West have an extended vacation, which is unfortunate, but the reality of what happens right now. And now you've taken down the defending champs in a 2-game series. Now it's a series of 1-game shootouts where literally anything can happen. And for the Red Bulls, I think there are reasons that the team match up well, certainly against Cincinnati, which we have seen this year. The Red Bulls swept Cincinnati in the regular season. And also against NYC, they lost both of the games. But I think with Forsberg back healthy and driving, there's a lot to feel good about a potential matchup with the first ever Hudson Derby playoff, if that's where it goes. And of course, where that game will be played, I think, is up for discussion as well, because we're not sure right now.
No, we're not sure. But if you do a little, little Ticketmaster, et cetera, detective work, you can start to see that there are events in various places right around the time of that game, such as, I believe, a Navy Notre Dame game at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah,
and
yes.
I think a holiday festival of sorts at Citi Field. And if you start putting X's in those sorts of venues, your brain logically says, well, Red Bull Arena
natural place
should be available. So, we'll leave that one for a different day, whenever it may or may not come, because as you said, it could be Cincinnati, and I still think Cincinnati will get the job done at home. But I think the beauty for the Red Bulls is that Cincinnati are wounded. They are not the team that they were last year, certainly, and not the team that they were the first half of this year, even though they do have some really, really good pieces. In New York City, they have weaknesses, and that beat down at Red Bull Arena was a true outlier in their overall season, in my mind, certainly in the second half of the season. So, I mean, every possibility in the world. I don't want to tease Red Bulls fans with possibilities. They know how those things happen, but why not? Why not believe right now? Why not believe in the way that this team is playing, and the way that Forsberg is sort of otherworldly when it comes time for that, is this going to be dangerous or is it not moment? Like, he is just so good, Mark, where it's like, okay, 50-50 ball outside the Red Bulls box.
That's his.
Okay, who's going to win the ball?
Right.
And in the way that they win the ball, are they going to do so where they eliminate their man, are faced forward, and create momentum? He is just he's a guy who creates momentum, and he's like, hey, this field's not flat anymore, guys. It's downhill. Start running.
Yeah.
And the superpower for Emil Forsberg, and I think it's the same for a guy like a Robin Ludd, for Minnesota United. It's a different profile. The superpower in my mind is decision making is a skill. Executing on decision making is another skill.
Yes.
And if you have both of those things in those moments on the field, you are going to cause teams absolute fits. And if Lewis Morgan can find his form to start the season in front of goal, you're on to something.
Well, and again, I think the Red Bulls' first goal is a fantastic illustration of that, because Morgan's winning the ball, getting it to Forsberg on a not easy line. He had to operate around a number of defenders to get that ball into the center of the Forsberg, and Forsberg again to Van Zier, and Van Zier converting. So many Red Bulls stepped up. I think Dylan Nealis has been very underrated through the second half of the season. He was phenomenal on his side, the Max Arfsen goal notwithstanding in this match. Danny Edelman continues to impress in terms of his tenacity, ran over 8 miles in each of the matches. It's unbelievable. And what I loved, and there's been a ton of team content that's come out after this winning moment, him being grabbed by John Tolkien, the two of them walking and talking, the two homegrowns, and Edelman explaining to Tolkien as Red Bull Arena is absolute bedlam. Well, this is what I was thinking, and this is what I did. And Tolkien's like, dude, like, let's just enjoy it, man. Like, yeah, okay, bud.
That's a perfect distillation of like two guys who've trodden the same sort of professional path in a lot of ways.
Yes.
But have such completely different brains, it seems, for
Yes.
how they're absorbing those moments and thinking about them.
Yeah.
And look, I'll raise my hand and say that I haven't always been someone who thought, hey, Edelman should be a locked-in starter for this team. I just think there are some moments where I like Ronald Doncourt coming up, but I was kind of like, oh, maybe if Danny's more of your third midfielder, that might be better. Yeah. But I think moments like this start to show you like the importance of, one, depth in the squad, but also what having guys who truly understand your club and your ethos means in moments like this, where you have to represent that fully, and where there's an element of sort of like passion and focus and just doggedness that if you don't have it, you just don't have it.
Yeah.
And he had it. And he set the tone. And when he's doing that, everybody else they start to follow. They start to follow. It becomes contagious. And it's not just the quality of Forsberg. It's, who's got that dog in him tonight? Like, look at Nealis. Look at him.
Right.
Look at Sean barking. It's like you're with a group of people and you have a challenge. Like, if it's just you who's walking into that dark woods, you're like, I'm a little bit nervous. Like, this might not be my day. If it's you and 10 of your guys and you're all feeling it, you're like, whatever's in there, we're going to handle. And it kind of felt like that's the Red Bulls on these two nights, which was, hey, punch us in the face. We think we can handle it. Hey, we're going to be the one to punch you in the face in game one, even though nobody thinks that we can do it. They just found that togetherness at the perfect moment.
Yeah. And for a night, this team cast aside the history of this club's playoff failure and showed that that belief at the end of the day, which is, I think, what you're getting at, right? Starting with Forsberg, everyone buying in, the tactics are right. We're going down. We're not giving up. Different players coming up big in different situations, and a magical moment at the end, which any Red Bull fan who was there is going to remember forever. Before we let you go, Andrew, and thank you so much again for stopping by. When you think about the teams that are still alive, and you absolutely have no obligation to talk about this team that we're talking about tonight, like who, the Galaxy, quick work in their series. Seattle, 2 penalty kick wins. Minnesota, 2 penalty kick wins. Who's your favorite right now, and maybe who's your dark horse, with the understanding we still are kind of in the middle of the first round?
Miami are still my favorite. I know it's going to sound crazy given the way that they've played against Atlanta. I just think this has been Miami all year, right? Like, they've always given people opportunities. It's just that usually the moment that you sort of ignite your candle, they're like, we'll put that out. Like, we've got the talent, we've got the wherewithal, we've got the experience to just be better in the most critical moments of the game. So I still have Miami coming out of the East. Home field advantage is so crucial, and to have the opportunity for them to play at home the rest of the way, no matter what happens, is extremely valuable. I don't see Atlanta having another win in them against Miami. So I got Miami. In the Western Conference, I'm still going to take LAFC until they get knocked out, and the Vancouver Whitecaps are pushing them to the very brink. But their brand of playoff soccer and their experience in those moments is pretty convincing to me. The Galaxy are intoxicating. You know, they're a team that makes you feel good when things are going good, but they can introduce the bad drunk part where a set piece comes and they don't defend well, or you know, they just can't quite deal with those 1v1 matchups when they get isolated, especially against LAFC. And so I think my dark horse right now is Minnesota United. I just think they match up in a really interesting way against LAFC. They take the middle of the field away, and most people can't do that to Ricky Puig for 90 minutes, so knock on wood. But they take the middle of the field away, and they just say, you can attack us on the flanks, but you're not going to get penetration there. We're going to be 5 across the back. We're going to be really organized, really deep. Anytime that you actually beat the first man out of the midfield wide, there's always going to be multiple defenders there to meet you. And those are the areas of the field that the Galaxy really thrive in. In particular, they thrive in open space. And I just don't think Eric Ramsey is going to give them any open space, any depth in behind to run into. And then it's a team that's, 1, good on set pieces, and 2, has really underrated attacking players in counterattacking situations. So they're going to invite the Galaxy forward and invite them to expose themselves. They're going to say, yeah, hey, it's just Cerrillo and a couple center backs back there, huh? Like, if we can get the ball to Robin Ludd's feet, if we can, you know, to keep it close to home, do something similar to what the Red Bulls did with Kelvin Yeboah out there running, with maybe Bongi Hongwane breaking from that right wingback spot when the time is right, we can snag a couple goals. And if we get them, we're going to make it so hard for you to get space that you might not have an opportunity to beat us.
Red Bulls Loons final. You heard it right here.
Oh, boy.
You can watch Andrew Wiebe in so many different places on MLS Countdown and MLS Wrap Up on Extra Time on Instant Replay. Andrew, thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it.
Mark, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to return the favor. I think I probably owe you about 15 more of these down the line. So feel free to cash your checks when the time is right. If this run continues, maybe I'll be back to marvel at the world we live in with you.
Yes, indeed. We'll have more Seeing Red coming up right after this short break, so keep it here. The Red Bulls now have advanced past the first round of the playoffs for the first time since 2018. They broke a streak of going out in the first round of the playoffs 5 years in a row, and they did it against probably the toughest opponent that they could face. And I guess the point is, it really was not having Emil Forsberg for 2.5 months.
Yeah, I mean, it was losing Frankie. It was just the roster not being totally in sync. But Emil Forsberg, I think, is a huge linchpin in all this. Yeah,
I mean, and again, instilling belief in the team, taking personal responsibility for making the team a success. And this is why you signed that guy. Because he's seen it, and he's done it, and he's been there. And when the smoke clears on this season, which by all accounts from a regular season was lacking, which started incredibly well and traipsed across the finish line, perhaps it's this magical night at Red Bull Arena on Sunday night that fans will remember.
Do you remember what I said earlier in the year for one of our shows when you asked what defines a successful season for the New York Red Bulls this year?
Refresh my memory.
So back when they were in 4th place, I know that's ages ago.
It's a long time. They were in 1st place a long time.
Yeah, it was that they needed to beat a lower division team, and then they needed to punch up. And I'd say getting to the Eastern Conference Finals via that route is probably the indicator of success in a season. So they've already punched up.
Yep.
I almost want to believe that, like, you can call this season a success and you can now save house money. But I'm starting to wonder, like, where if you play New York City FC next round, that's just 1 seat above you. It kind of fits the same thing I was talking about before. So
they're similar teams.
It's similar teams.
Yeah.
So
Cincinnati
really
would be punching up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're a Red Bull fan, you're rooting for Atlanta United to keep winning because the only way that the Red Bulls can have another home game is if they face Atlanta United in the conference final, which would be at Red Bull Arena. So you can certainly think about that, rooting for Atlanta. What a world. Paul Fleck writes, and he says, hey guys, after watching last night's game, I'm reminded of the quote of the great philosopher Harry Dunn. Just when you think you can't get any dumber, you go out and do something like this and totally redeem yourself. Look, I know it's just one game. Columbus is going to come to New York pissed off, and Nancy will make adjustments that we have to deal with, but it's too optimistic to think, oh, this was written before the match. If we can get through the first 15 minutes unscathed, ride a high-energy crowd, do we have a shot at this? If there's any hope, it has to be Sunday. We can expect to get in Ohio. Please don't tell them we're setting up for another That's So Metro moment. They were absolutely, this team was set up for more Metro moments. And a happy ending, as they say. Steve Martin, not that one, says, hey, Mark, first of all, thank you for setting expectations for Sunday's game during the podcast. I took a small bit of comfort knowing the season wouldn't end as I was leaving Red Bull Arena. But for that to happen, bananas. I've been a Red member for 11 years, and this game is easily in the top 5 home wins alongside the Shields. MLS went as far as to ask if this is the biggest playoff upset of all time. The wildest part for me is that the game had all the makings of a Metro finish. Yep, late equalizer. In an unwarranted 12 minutes of extra time, J-Mine missing the first spot kick, Nealis blowing his chance to clinch it. This team had so many chances to let their Metro show, and they didn't. Maybe that's the biggest shocker of all. I'd like to know your perspective on players and their mentality. I couldn't quite tell, but it seemed like the team was playing with a chip on their shoulder. Hello. Watching Carlos and Edelman celebrate their winning moments in the shootout, they looked angry. It was very intense. Do you know what's fueling that intensity? I hope the 3 weeks between games doesn't slow down the nobody believes us momentum. And I've got to give Sandro a ton of credit. The team had a history of managers who get too cute in the playoffs. I'll never forget the 15 conference finals went down 2-0 after the first leg. Jesse parked the bus for the first 60 minutes because he was afraid of conceding an away goal. Sandro's game 1 game plan was on point, and even though game 2 started a little passive, a scoreless halftime score is what he wanted, and it ended up working out. Isn't it wild to think that the team and tactics that we all fell in love with back in April is clicking, and this team might get it together when it counts? Is Sandro an evil genius and saved all of his best speeches and game plans for the 5 games that matter the most? Am I getting ahead of my skis on this one? No matter who we play next, the team should have no problem finding that chip again. I hope it's played in a baseball stadium so the Red Bull fans can pack the upper deck and let them know we love them, and everywhere will follow. Thanks for all you do. Covering the team with questions for players, managers, the front office. Your guest 3 wins away. 3 wins away is a very bold thing to say, knowing this team's playoff history. And we've talked a little bit about the fact that this match had a number of That's So Metro moments waiting to happen. And in the end, they, Danny and Carlos were able to get it done. Phenomenal. Is Sandro an evil genius, or is it just the point of getting his players back together and in form, or both?
I think it's players getting back in form. I think that Sandro's been very clear of what this team is and the way he wants to play. And when he has the players to play that game, they play well. It's a shock, isn't it? But also, just to go back to what he said about, Emil, what is it? The clip that everyone's sharing around right now? Why not us? Columbus is a good team. We know that, but F that. Why can't we win that? Why can't we beat them? And that's the type of guy where you are playing with house money. You want that guy on your team because you have a lot of young players on this team who might be overwhelmed the fact of playing Columbus. Where we dropped down the teams, we dropped down the table so much. I don't know if we can actually do this. So having a guy who's been around and with that mentality, that's way more important than Sandro actually be able to play the way he's wanted to play all year. You need the players who believe in the system to play the system.
And to execute the chances that they're getting at a time when, as we're often fond of saying, when the margin of error goes to 0, they finish. And I can't help but go back to the 2 biggest goals that New York scored in this series, the run of play goals, right? Run of play. Carballo's finish in the first match, and then the phenomenal Vanzier finish. And those 3 players, Lewis Morgan, who today won Comeback Player of the Year, congrats Lewis, and Emil Forsberg and Dante Vanzier, all those three players were able to execute on a phenomenal counterattack where Columbus stopped playing, high degree of difficulty. It was absolute beauty. And the Vanzier finish was a huge catharsis, not only for the player, but for the team, and sent a message to Columbus that we were not going to roll over. And at the end of the match, we didn't. So
No.
Phenomenal. One more email. That's Jeff Shalom, who says, "Hey, fellas, want to write in to say the team has disappointed me so many times that I literally did not know what to do when they didn't disappoint me. I forgot that celebrating was an option too. I also want to give a shout out to Dylan Nealis. I feel like he played one of the best defensive games of his life. Add in the assist in the first leg, and he's been huge for us during this postseason. Many thanks for the great content. Who would you rather play in the next round? I still say NYC, given this year's track record." That's Jeff Shalom, and we've talked a little bit about that a bit earlier about who we'd rather play. For Mike, it's NYC, given the fact that New York will have no fear. He will not see a tentative team pressed for the entire field, and that beating Cincinnati 3 times in a row may be a challenge. So now it's international break time. Emil Forsberg has been called into Sweden.
Why?
I genuinely hope that he does not play a minute. Or
how desperate are they that him having like one good month after being injured is enough for a call up?
And forgive me, are these Nations League games that they're playing? Are these UEFA Nations League games?
I believe so, yes.
Or is it 26 qualifiers? Or
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know.
All right, you'll do that. But Noah Isla did not get called in, and I don't believe either Lewis Morgan didn't get called in, or they're not playing. Scotland's
Nations
not playing.
League.
Nations League. Okay, it's UEFA Nations League. And again, given the opportunity to go back to Sweden for a couple of days, I'm sure will be valuable for Forsberg. But put him on for the last 8 minutes of a game that's out of reach where everyone's walking around, please. Because I mean, as Forsberg goes, I think goes the Red Bulls. I think we've certainly seen that.
To be fair,
yeah.
The games are against Slovakia and Azerbaijan. So I mean, Azerbaijan is not going to be a problem.
Not going to be a problem doesn't mean there isn't going to be some 20-year-old kid looking to make a name and throwing his legs around Forsberg, Jermaine Jones style. And so I would rather have him wrapped in bubble wrap. I'd rather have him wear the bubble wrap on the field and come back after his mysterious lower leg injury, which we've never heard any more about.
Bone spurs.
Yeah.
Who knows?
We are sending healing energy to Joe Goldstein. It's Joe's not in a good place. And I want Joe to know that the entire Red Bull universe is thinking about him and sending he and his family really good vibes right now. So Joe, we love you and we are thinking about you every day. This has been a phenomenal Seeing Red number 595. We're gonna have to do something big for 600. If they keep playing and winning, 600 might come at a very, very special time for this team. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I'd like to thank Andrew Wiebe for being a great guest. Mike, thank you for coming and offering your amazing analysis as always. Please, again, like and subscribe on the YouTube. And we'll take a week off and we'll come back when the Red Bulls know who they're playing and we'll get you ready for that. So I'm Mark Fishkin saying thanks so much, everyone. Let's go Red Bulls. A phenomenal night at Red Bull Arena. Good night, everyone.